Welcome, Team Encore. My guest today, Lorcan Morris. He's got a very fascinating background in bio. He was born in Dublin. He currently lives in Boiling Spring, North Carolina. He's a decorated amateur and collegiate golfer, the most successful bulldog at Wingate University in golf history there. He's been an LPGA Tour caddy for Laura Davies. He's been a European Tour, PGA Tour, Corn Ferry caddy. He's done it all. He's a fireman, and he's currently caddying for Ben Taylor. Welcome to the show, Lorcan. How are you?
Great, Steve. I appreciate you having me on today. Thanks a lot.
You're at your home there in Boiling Springs, North Carolina?
I am, yeah. I'm out the back. I've got a 3-year-old little boy, Fergus. He's inside sleeping. So the wife said, exit through the back, if you will, to do the podcast. So like any good husband, I took the instructions and did it. Yeah, I'm out the back of my house.
Well, you've got a nice pool back there and a nice background for us. We appreciate you taking the time. And I'd like to start with just getting a little bit more background on your amateur career as a golfer and your collegiate career as well.
No problem, man. You might have to remind me a little bit about my amateur career because it was quite a long time ago when you contacted me to come on here last week and you asked me to send you the bio in the third person. I was like, oh, no problem. And then I started to type and then I was like, it's ridiculous, man, how long ago it's been. It seems like yesterday, but it's actually been basically, I turned professional in 2006. So it's been 14 years since I played any amateur golf. I gave it a brief little run in 2016 when my little boy was born. I had a little hiatus sabbatical from Caddy to try to spend some more time with him and Kimberly and Trinity at home. And I started playing a lot of golf, and I entered the Irish Mid-Amateur and finished runner-up at Athenry Golf Club in Galway, which is probably the ultimate flash in the pan, but it's a notch on my belt. Had a successful amateur career, not very successful in Ireland. I didn't really get good till I came over to Wingate University in 2001, and probably if I'm being honest with you, I probably didn't start getting very good until I was at Wingate a couple of years, probably 2003 or 4. I started playing quite good. I won the Charlotte City Amateur in 2006, I think it was 5 or 6, which is a World Amateur Golf Ranking event. That was a great, good, probably my biggest win, to be honest with you, because there's several tour players have won that event. Then I had all the stuff around the southeastern United States. Got to play in some. I think you'd have to look again on the bio. Two or three U.S. amateurs, at least 2 U.S. amateurs, and a couple of public links, and a British amateur at St Andrews. Represented Ireland at golf in various tournaments around the world, and golf's given me a lot, man. Been very, very fortunate. If there's stuff you want to ask me about my amateur career, man, because it's been a long time ago. I know I did win. I won a national championship. I won the Golf Week Amateur Golf Tour National Championship in 2005. I was beaten in a playoff in 2004, and went back in 2005 at Wild Wing Plantation in Myrtle Beach, very determined. I do remember that, and I managed to win it in 2005. So that may actually be bigger than the Charlotte City Amateur.
And how has your career as a professional caddy been influenced by your background in amateur golf?
I know a lot of the guys that are my own age that are on the PGA Tour. Obviously, we played a lot of amateur golf against each other, so it was definitely influenced about that. It made my move, if you like, from the LPGA Tour to the PGA Tour probably smoother than it should have been. For a lot of people, there's a lot of bumps in the road. Unfortunately, my move was smooth through my various relationships and of guys that I played with and traveled with over the years prior to caddying.
You've got a special relationship with Laura Davies, and caddied for her for a number of her wins, right?
Yeah, Laura and I has been. I met Laura when I was 12 years of age. The Ladies Irish Open came to St. Margaret's Golf Club, which is by my house in Dublin, and I was out there with the Boy Scouts. And our job that week was when the players were done with their rounds to go out in the evening times and empty the trash bags in a golf cart with your scout leader. I remembered clear as day. Remembered like it was this morning, being on the 11th tee box on a Monday evening, changing the trash can, and Laura Davies was on the 10th hole playing a practice round, and she came up onto the tee box, and it was just me, my scout leader, and Laura, and Matthew Adams, who's now become a friend of mine, who's Laura's caddy and cousin. And Laura said, "What are you doing there, mate?" And I said, "I'm changing the trash cans." And she said, "You need to be caddying for me." And I couldn't believe it's world number one at the time, 1994, I think it was. And she said, "Matthew, get on that golf cart and you change the bins." That's what we call them back home in Europe, bins. You change the bins the next 8 holes. And here I got the caddy for Laura those 8 holes. Golf bag was bigger than myself, a big red and white Marrowman bag. And believe it or not, at the time, that was 1994, she paid me £500 for those 8 holes, which now people are always saying, how much is that? How much is that nowadays? I don't know exactly how much it is, but my guess in US dollars is probably about 1,500 US dollars. You'd have to look it up, but that's pretty close. It was more money than any 12-year-old needed. I know that. And she gave me her number, and she said, at the time, then there was no mobile phones back then. Certainly, mobile phones were an extreme luxury, and most players didn't have mobile phones because they didn't need them. And she said, "This is the B&B I'm staying at this week. If you want to call me one night." And I called her. My mom and dad forced me to call her. I was too shy. I didn't want to call. Mom and dad said, "This is the best contact you'll ever make." I remember my dad specifically saying that, "You better keep in touch with her." And sure enough, yeah, we had a great week. Laura won that week. You'd have to look it up on the internet. I think she shot 26 or 27 under par at the time. It was a world record for 72 holes. We just had the greatest week ever. And Sunday night we had a great party. And I still got in my golf room upstairs, I still got a bunch of memorabilia from that week. I have a Marrowman visor, a Royal Max Fly golf ball, which is an absolute dinosaur of a golf ball. That's a relic. But at the time, you couldn't even buy Royal Max Flies. I think there was 2 people in the world that was playing them, was Sevi and Laura. And on the side of it, I had Laura D and Pink. And then my relationship with Laura just evolved through the years. Laura became a great friend and confidant. I still talk to her regularly. And in 2009, then 8 or 9, when I was going to start caddying after I played professional golf, I called Laura and I was like, "Laura, I'd like to, I'm thinking about giving up professional golf just because the economy was so bad back then, and playing mini tours was not a lot of fun with no sponsors." And she said, "Absolutely. Meet me in Arkansas next week." So met her in Arkansas, and worked for Laura for a while, and we had some success together, a lot of fun. And she always said to me, "I'll give you your first job, but after that you're on your own." And she did, and I managed to move up the ladder from there. Yeah, but Laura's been great. She's always been very, very good to me, and a massive reason why I'm where I am today.
And for those golfers at home listening, watching, what are some things that we don't really see in terms of the behind the scenes of what a caddy does and how you operate?
Yeah, sure, man. Typical week for me is if well, there's two types of weeks, 3 types of weeks really. There's weeks where I've been to a golf course before and I'm very familiar with the surroundings. Those weeks are pretty easy. Just use the yardage book from the year before if there hasn't been any major changes. Go out and make sure that the numbers, everything is the same as the year before. Make sure the greens are the same depth. They haven't changed a yard or two either way. Those weeks are cake. Makes it great, very, very easy if you've been there before. You usually know a lot of the volunteers. You know where to eat, you know where to stay, you know what you're doing. As another week would be a week where you haven't been to the tournament before. Those weeks are a little bit tougher. Regular tour event, you're not as familiar with your surroundings when you get there. So you try to get there maybe a week where you've been to the golf course before. It doesn't particularly matter if you don't walk it on Monday morning. You can walk it Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. Just as long as you get a walk before Thursday, it's not a big deal. You know what you're doing. a week that you have not been to the tournament before is pretty serious work there. Monday morning, really try to get out there first light, see the golf course, and get familiar with the surroundings before your player gets there. Walk the golf course, try and get as much information as you can. A week that I have not been to the golf course before, usually on golf courses, as your avid golfer listeners would know, there's usually one 9 that's maybe a little bit tougher or a little bit trickier than the other 9. So you maybe walk that 9 twice, or maybe 3 or 4 holes on the golf course that are kind of tricky. So you go back and check them a couple more times. And then obviously the third week is major championship week, and that is probably the closest thing to hell on earth for a tour caddy as regards preparation. It took me a long time to get used to the majors and finding out. You try to find majors are so stressful on the golf course. You're trying to find ways to ease that stress Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's no pro-ams and majors, so you get an extra day of walking the golf course, which is huge. I found the way that I like to do major championships is majors are normally held at obviously world-renowned golf courses. You know, you get the Open Championship in Birkdale, St Andrews. I mean, you name it, Liverpool. Those great golf courses. U.S. Opens are at Oakmont, Pebble Beach, Torrey. I've always found the best way for me to prepare for a major is to get a local caddy. Try to call the caddy master maybe 6 months ahead of time. Ask him who his number one guy is. Get his contact information. Get in touch with him. Tell him I'm coming out there for the U.S. Open or the British Open or the PGA, and say, hey, would you be interested in meeting with me on, say, the Saturday? I usually try to do it the Saturday or the Sunday before the actual week of the tournament. And out of my own pocket, I pay those guys whatever it is, $150, $200 to go and walk, and I just pick those guys' brains for 5 hours. And that's majors. Majors are really tough, but ultimately, obviously, the most rewarding tournament that we work to. So yeah, those are the three ways that I would work a golf tournament typically.
Well, interesting last tip there. Giving away some of your secret sauce to what's made you successful, but we know not everyone will put the effort in that you did, which is really commendable. For the golfers at home, maybe they're not playing in a major, but they've got a tournament coming up. They've got a golf trip with their buddies, and what advice would you give them to help them prepare? I know I'll play new courses or courses I played a few times. Should I be focused on yardages, to the center of the green? Should I be, walking through the round visually in my head, ahead of getting to the course? What are some tips you've amassed over the years caddying for the top golfers that could help?
Sure, man. As regards like an average handicapper, and I'm going to say an average handicapper based on the United States handicap system is between like 8 and 15 or 8 handicap and higher. My number one piece of advice for them going away on a buddies trip would be the week before. Just go out every single evening into your front yard and chip for 15 minutes. That's all you need is 15 minutes every night the week before. Just go out and chip. Just simple little chips. And then the week when you get there, commit to yourself that you're going to stay emotionally and mentally in the moment, that no matter what shot you hit, that you're not going to let it affect the next shot. That would be my number one mental tip. And then outside of that, I would also say, don't attempt any shot that you're not going to pull off 7.5 out of 10 times. Just don't do it. There's no point, because if you can play 18 holes of golf as an amateur golfer between the handicaps of 8 and above, if you can play 18 holes of golf without a double bogey, you're probably going to have a very good day. And when you get to the golf course, I would get the speed of the greens. I'd hit a lot of putts 18 to 30 feet and get the speed down. Your goal at the start of the day should be no double bogeys, which is obviously you achieve that by not taking on any stupid shots, and no 3-putts, which you achieve by just drawing a mental circle around the hole of about 3 feet and just try to roll that ball up in there. And savor the time. Enjoy the time with your friends, man, because we don't know what we're going to be, what kind of card we're going to be dealt with in life. I just talked to one of my buddies yesterday. He hadn't played golf in I think 9 weeks. I think the golf course is just opened in Ireland this week. So enjoy your time with your friends for sure as well.
Absolutely. And a fellow friend of yours, Seth Pepper, we had him on our show, golf mental coach, golf or sports performance coach. And
World-class swimmer.
he mentioned, being present, being in the moment, try and, don't get caught up in that internal story, that monologue where
Exactly. Your mind speaks to you, man, and it becomes relevant, and it's not relevant at all. Yeah. But that's a commitment, man. It's something that Ben and I have been working on, and however you achieve that, it doesn't matter. It just has to be achieved. And if that means that you write a note on your glove, so a sign, like it can be like an X, and you know what that X means. If it, however you achieve it, it doesn't matter. You can even, I have no problems with guys blowing off steam, where you have to give yourself 20 or 30 seconds. You know what I mean? And you literally count it in your head. But definitely, man, that's the key. That's the key to golf, is being right here and right now. No doubt about it.
I wrote down no double bogeys. I'm usually saying no triple bogeys, but
Yeah.
I'll digress to that. No double bogeys. Yeah, that's
No triple bogeys is easy when it's double bogey max, right?
Yep. Wise words. What would you say, working with some of these elite professionals and winning majors with them? What do you think sets the elite, PGA Tour players, LPGA Tour players, Corn Ferry players? What do you think sets them apart, gives them a little bit of an edge over their fellow competitors?
I think it's mental, man. It comes down to staying in the moment and self-belief, and not forcing the issue ever. Realizing internally and just knowing that you're good enough to do this. And if you continue to put one foot in front of the other, Ryan Brim used to love that phrase, put one foot in front of the other, you won't be beat, and you will achieve your goals. You'll be beat in golf. Of course you'll be beat. That's not an accurate statement, but meaning that you won't be beat, you won't beat yourself. So for sure, staying in the moment. If you go along the driving range of any PGA Tour event, every single player there, you would think, can win major championships, and they can win major championships. If you go along the driving range of a Corn Ferry event, every single player there is just as good as every single player that you'll see on the PGA Tour event. It's absolutely about staying in the moment, self-belief, and putting one foot in front of the other and staying present. And I think a very important part of professional golf is acceptance. Accepting that things, sometimes they're just not going to go your way. And that's just the way that it is. And it's how you deal with those bad breaks that separate the haves from the have-nots.
Great advice. And over the years, I'm curious, have you seen habits, behaviors change, whether it's on the LPGA, PGA Tour? I know they always say fitness was never really big back in the day. Gary Player, Encore's ambassador, would be an exception to that rule, but generally it's Tiger Woods ushered in this whole idea of players, hitting the gym beforehand. You mentioned mental. I'm sure there's sports psychologists on hand. What do you see? Like, what have you noticed, maybe even recently, that's changed over the last few years that players are doing and partaking in before competitive play?
Yeah, I think in the last 5 years, for sure, there's been a lot more emphasis, and this is just going strictly on conversations that I've had with guys and that I've overheard guys having on the driving ranges and stuff. There's a lot more emphasis nowadays on sleep and nutrition, whereas in the Tiger did raise the bar as regards work ethic and working out and all that other stuff. But I think there's been a big switch now in the last few years. Working out is obviously crucial. When I was in college, I was the only person on my golf team that ran, and I was a freshman in 2001. And now I think everybody and their uncle runs now. So for sure, I think there's been a big uptick in the last few years on the importance of sleep and nutrition.
Very interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about sleep, but that makes 100%.
It's very, very big, man. I want to say, you'd have to look this up. It's Rafa Nadal or Djokovic. It's one of those guys sleeps 16 hours the day before a final, the day before a Grand Slam final, 16 or 18 hours, and wrote a big article on it. And it's something that that's very important to me and my well doing on the road. And my peak performance is making sure that I get enough sleep. Very, very important. Especially the job we do. A lot of the times we play each week on a different time zone.
I know Ariana Huffington has been big about promoting sleep and its importance. I've heard articles of Tiger talking about how he's completely switches up his sleep cycle to prepare for the British Open and the time zone changes, and does that weeks ahead, which is fascinating, the level of discipline needed to prepare for these events. So very interesting advice. So do you think it's possible for players to get an edge with a caddy?
I think it depends on the player and the player's personality and what they want from their caddies. I can tell you that I worked for Ryan Brim for the last 2.5 years before I started with Ben in the fall last year. And if my daughter, who's 12 years of age, caddied for Ryan, or I caddied for Ryan, or Steve Williams caddied for Ryan, or Fanny Suniston caddied for Ryan, or anybody, or somebody off the street caddied for Ryan, that his results are going to be the exact same. He didn't need Ryan didn't rely on his caddy for anything at all, other than it was a requirement by the tour to have one. And that's not a knock on him at all. He was a great boss to me. We made a lot of money together. We won together. We had a lot of success, and he treated me awesome. But he was very, very self-sufficient, really, and prided himself on that. He was a lot of fun to work for. He was not very hard to work for. So I think that personality right there, Ryan's not probably going to get an edge from anybody. I like to call him whatever. If I told Ryan the sky was blue, he would argue with me that it was pink, just to say something different. So a player with that mentality is not going to get an edge, I don't think, with a caddy. However, I worked for several years with Sydney Michaels, and Sydney was very reliant on a caddy for wanted you at various golf lessons. She wanted you to she wanted your opinion on every shot. If she was going to make a switch in her bag, she wanted your opinion on that. And Ben Taylor, my current player, is very, very good at including me in different stuff. We're going through some shaft changes right now in this driver. He's been calling me on a daily basis, saying, I'm going to try this one today. Have a look at this one. Tell me what you think. Send me videos of himself, allowing me to give my input on different things. And I think if the player opens their mind, which I don't like to, that's not a very good phrase, open their mind. If the player's personality allows them for somebody to give them an input and them to value that input, then they can definitely benefit from it.
Makes complete sense. I know we see from watching TV, we see a lot of the back and forth between players, Phil, for example, and his caddy, and the announcers make it seem like there's a real back and forth. There's a real.
Well, you don't see much between Tiger and Joe.
Yeah. That's
that personality. Tiger's very much, he takes control of everything himself, and that's the way that he's always played the game. You see a lot of back and forth between Jordan and Michael Greller. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting take on it, and makes complete
but not very much between Rory and Harry Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the different personalities.
For the listeners at home that might want some tips on reading greens, any advice, any help you can give them from?
Well, Ben Taylor will tell you, if I read the putt, just do the complete opposite, and you'll be all right. Read.
At least you're consistent, right?
Yeah. My best reading greens, if you can kind of draw a mental picture when you walk up to the green of the contours of the green, and then if you can imagine that that green was a river flowing, and then you see where the water flows to, that's where the breaks are. So if you're reading your putt, you kind of imagine water flowing down that line, which way the water's going to flow. That's always I've always found that to be very, very, very helpful.
Interesting. Good analogy. Have to try that out.
Yeah.
And
10% of your next skins game. I'll give you my address afterwards.
I've got a yoga mat that I've turned into my putting green here in my apartment in Buffalo. But I related to your advice about going out and chipping because just hitting a few putts, a few times a day when I get out on the golf course, it does help. It gives you that little bit of confidence.
Absolutely. 100%, and it gives you a little bit of feel in the tips of your fingers that you may not have from not doing it. Definitely.
Before we hit record, we were chatting a little bit about the PGA Tour and how they've handled the pandemic. Can you touch on?
Sure, I can't, Dave. I think I was telling you before we went on, I couldn't say enough good things right now about the PGA Tour. They've been incredible to the players. They've been incredible to the caddies. They've been incredible to our families. I don't think that they could have done one thing better or one thing different during this time. They've communicated with us almost on a daily basis. They set up a benevolent fund, started by Matt Kuchar and his wife. Matt gave $50,000 to start a benevolent fund. I want to say there's close to $1 million in that fund now. PGA Tour have contacted us regularly, like I said, asking us, do we need any assistance at all, any financial assistance? If we need, they can't do enough for trifecta meal services. Have provided every player and every caddy on the PGA Tour 4 weeks of pre-prepared meals delivered to our house every Friday for everybody in the household. PGA Tour today just announced that caddies were going to get health insurance starting on July the 1st. They came up with the same group plan that the players have. Valspar, the official hat sponsor of the Professional Caddies Association, has paid everybody that wears their hat through the Players Championship because of being contacted by the PGA Tour. They went to them and asked them would they write checks for the first half of the year, which they did. Jenny King, which is the official towel, same thing, wrote us a check from through the Players Championship. So just great communication. And Jay Monahan obviously has froze his salary right now, not taking any money, which is just great leadership at the top. And I think it just filters the whole way down. It's very humbling to be involved with such an incredible organization, to be honest with you right now, especially when you see some other sports golf organizations maybe not taking as good a care of the caddies as they should.
That's great to hear. And with the changes that amateur golfers have experienced with, the flags being left in and the raised cups, some various sand trap, no rakes. Do you know if the tour will have any adaptations to the course itself, or is it going to be pretty much what you're used to?
Yeah, we had a 37-page email that was sent to us a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure if it made it in the media or not. But my understanding of reading that, I've read it a couple of times. I've got two different understandings of it. So who knows what's right and what's wrong? We're not going to know until we get on site. My understanding is that there's going to be a volunteer or maybe a rules official from the state golf association, somebody with an extremely high knowledge of golf. It's going to be raking the bunkers with our groups and taking the flag in and out of the hole. So
Okay.
I think they're doing. Like I said, man, it's just such an unknown right now with this pandemic, and I think the PGA Tour have tackled this to the absolute best of their ability. And we'll know a lot more when we go back on June the 8th as regards how exactly things are going to run. But I know this morning I just got an email from the tour saying that they're sending everybody COVID-19 at home test that we have to take 4 days before we leave. So I mean, they're covering every single angle.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned Ben Taylor, your player is
He is
working
one
on
of my best friends as well.
working on his game and
Working extremely hard. He's Ben lives down in Jupiter, and those golf courses were closed in Palm Beach County for probably 5 or 6 weeks. So Ben's been spending a lot of time up in Sawgrass.
okay.
Practicing up there. He's been obviously that's the tour headquarters. It's a world-class practice facility. Him and I joke, if you can't get better practicing at Sawgrass, you probably should start working at McDonald's or Burger King, or definitely looking at another career, because it's the best facility in the world.
I imagine there's going to be some guys that come out of this stronger, and others that maybe haven't taken as much time to keep their games in shape. So it'll be interesting when golf starts back up to see where
it's going to be fascinating, man. And Seth and I talk on. You mentioned Seth Pepper earlier. Seth and I talk a couple of times a week. He's been great for me as more of like a life coach and high performance coach, being a caddy, getting me motivated in the gym during this time. And I think there's only 2 ways that you're going to come out of this pandemic. You're going to come out way better than you went into it, or you're going to come out a lot worse and be playing catch up the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And I've been very, very fortunate here in North Carolina. The gyms, obviously, North Carolina shut down like everywhere else, but I'm a firefighter here in town at Shanghai Fire Department, and we have a workout facility there. So I have not missed any days. I'm six days a week, every morning at 6 a.m. So it's been really, really lucky, and I'm definitely coming out of this way stronger and fitter than I went into it.
That's great to hear. And for our listeners who may not know how you got hooked up with Ben, can you explain that?
Sure. Yeah, Ben and I have been friends for about 3 years. Very close friends. Probably more drinking buddies than golfing buddies, but that's okay. So Ben and I hung out a lot of off the golf course. We're good friends. Ate a lot of meals together and stuff. And Ben was looking for somebody around in the fall last year, and Ryan and I had probably reached the end of the road together. I mean, there wasn't much more that we were going to achieve really together. We were kind of a little bit stale, and I said to Ben, maybe we should just try and maybe give it a go together and see what happens. And he's said absolutely. So that's how we kind of right place at the right time.
Great. You still have the itch to compete yourself?
No, I've learned what good golf is, and the difference between top level amateur golf and not even top level tour golf, mediocre to bottom level tour golf is way better than anything that top level amateurs can ever achieve. Mid amateurs for sure. But I do miss it. I miss it a lot, and it annoys me that I've never won the club championship at my home club here in town. And I'm going to rectify that if I can ever. I need 5 days off before I play in the tournament, and I can do it. That's all I need is 5 days preparation.
Still got the competitive fire. I love it.
Oh no, for sure, I definitely do, man. You know, my whole life, Steve. Probably from the time I first went to the Irish Open, men's Irish Open at Mount Juliet. Nick Faldo was world number 1. Greg Norman and John Daly were playing, and Fanny Sunison was caddying for Nick. And I didn't know how I was ever going to become a professional golfer, or if I didn't become a professional golfer, I was going to become a professional caddy. And my dad will tell you the same thing. And I said to him, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but that's what's going to happen. And my whole life, I knew I was going to caddy on the PGA Tour if I didn't play. 110% knew it, never ever a doubt. I just knew that was the way that it was going to be. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I had no idea how to do it, but I knew that was going to be the end result. And it took a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of overdrawn checking accounts to achieve that dream, but got here eventually. So yeah, I still got the fire in me. I've got the fire probably more than ever because now I'm here. I'm going to stay.
Incredible to have that vision at such an early age. And you mentioned fire, and you also mentioned that you're a fireman. Can you give us a little background on what that entails?
Yeah. In 2015, Kimberly got pregnant with our little boy, and we have a little girl as well. Trinity was 12, and Fergus was born in July 2016. And I'd been away a lot with Trinity. I'd basically missed everything that was important. That's just one of the unfortunate side effects of caddying and traveling the world. So I decided if I had an opportunity again to be a dad to a little baby, that I was going to take that opportunity. So I took about 18 months off, maybe close to 2 years, 22 months, and I enrolled here in the Fire Academy in North Carolina, and I graduated #1. I don't know why I enrolled in the Fire Academy. I just did it more of a challenge to myself, I guess, than anything. And graduated #1, and I worked 7 months as a career firefighter, so I'm fully qualified firefighter and emergency medical responder. And that's fun. I do it here when I'm home. I during this whole pandemic, I've done at least one shift a week, if not 2. I have to do 90 hours of training a year in order to keep my certificates current. So I've managed to achieve that very easily during this pandemic. So that's been nice. But yeah, fully qualified fireman and EMT. So there you go. No.
There's not much you don't do, right? So,
well, no, yeah.
But yeah, so it's been great having you on. I know you made the comment about a group of players coming out stronger than ever, and then another group who's going to be lagging. And I meant to mention the group that's been on the pelotons. I know Rory McIlroy has been one. There's been a few others. So certainly, I think your comment is true. These guys that are working hard and putting in the practice are going to come out on fire. So
I think it's an incredible. I certainly looked at this from the get-go, and I said it to Kimberly. This is an incredible opportunity to get ahead in life in general. There's a lot of projects around my house that I got taken care of that we're probably going to be taken care of in the next 18 months to 2 years anyway. But it was an incredible time to get ahead on everything, including fitness level, and like you said, the guys that are with the golf practicing. There's absolutely going to be no middle ground when you come back out, and I think the golf fans and the listeners are going to be quite surprised by some of the guys that come up to the top and some of the guys that we don't hear from again for a long time.
Interesting insight there. And final question, any memorable stories from your time on tour caddying that maybe you could share?
What's so funny? It's so funny you should ask me that, because I just got off the phone with Roy Clark, who's a friend of mine. Roy's in Cork in Ireland. He caddies for Maria Uribe on the LPGA Tour. And actually, this is probably my best caddy story. In 2011, Roy was caddying for Sandra Gall, and they won in Los Angeles at the Kia Classic. I was caddying at that time for Katie Future, and we finished right behind them. I think we finished 3rd or 4th. Anyway, the next week was a major out in Kraft Nabisco in Palm Springs, California. Well, we went out there to the casino. I can't even remember then Aqua Caliente. That's it, in Palm Springs. And I mean, man, when I tell you we stayed up all night and a day. I mean, it was literally like our practice round on Monday morning was like at 7 o'clock, and we probably got back to our hotel at 6:45, showered, and back to the golf course. So anyway, we went to the hotel the night before, and we'd consumed quite heavily from Los Angeles to Palm Springs, checked into the hotel, went to the Aqua Caliente, came back, took our shower, and went to the golf course. We were staying together. We came back that afternoon. We were wrecked. Shouldn't have been out in public all day. And Roy went up to the door. We pulled up in the car, went up to the door, knocked on the door, and the biggest dog bark you've ever heard in your life. And that's like a big, deep bark. This is a big dog that was on the other side of that door. And he's like, man, he's from Cork. What's that dog in the room? And I was like, that can't be our room. This is our room. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's our room. So we went to the front, and the guy goes, oh, yes, pulls out a black sack with all of our stuff in it and throws it at us and tells us to leave. And we're like, oh, no, we want to stay. And he goes, no. We said, we paid for the week. No, you didn't. He pulls out the paperwork. We checked in for one night and one night only. We always check in for the week, but we had consumed way too much. And for some reason, the reservation was for one night and one night only. And we left all of our stuff in the room. And this guy packed all of our dirty underwear, all of our clean underwear, and all of our underwear together in this one bag, along with all of our clothes. And that was it. He sold the room off to somebody else with a huge dog. So there you go. Yeah, back when we were a lot younger.
So where'd you end up staying?
More, man. We're very focused. What's that?
Did you end up finding some lodging?
Oh man, we're from Ireland. We landed on our 2 feet. We went back to the golf course to see if any guys knew of any hotels, and of course the lady who was registering the caddies like, you guys can stay with me, and we ended up staying in her house on the 16th hole. That's like a true Irish for free. Of course we got sorted out. It's a true Irish story. Yeah.
Those are the memories, right? When things don't go as planned, right?
Yeah, it was one of the few times I agreed to wash my underpants with another caddy's underpants because we couldn't separate them from the bag. You just throw them all in the wash together.
Hey, now that's too much information here, Lorcan. Well, this has been great. Really, really appreciate you coming on our show and sharing your story and your life and lessons and advice with our listeners.
Oh no, I appreciate you having me on, Steve. I'm excited to try the Encore ball and see how it performs. I'm sure it's going to do great. I wish you guys all the best of luck with it.
Really appreciate that. We'll definitely get you some right after this. And thanks again, Lorcan Morris. Really, really appreciate it. And I know our listeners are going to love hearing your story.
Thanks so much, man.